Before we get started, the Flex Radio System Company has an unusual bus. Most of the time, a bus is some very little printed circuitry. But in this case, people can actually ride on the Flex bus. That is phenomenal. Well, time to get started. Well, it's time to take a more in-depth look at the Flex 5000A. And we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to look at some special features. And at the end of this video, you're going to see an undocumented feature that you will not believe. Some of what we're going to look at coming up next are some of the more in-depth features that I have not covered previously. We're going to take a check of the ALC. We're going to look at the monitor function. We're going to look at the scope. We're going to take an in-depth look at the equalizer. We're going to see how the Flex 5000A can be a QRP rig. And we're going to take a look at some transmitter profiles as well. And we'll also look at the wave recorder, among some other things. And you might notice I'm wearing my official Flex hat. Has my name and my call on it. There's my name over there. So without any further time, let's take a look at the Flex 5000A features. If you have a studio type microphone, which you can use with the Flex 5000A because it does have a balanced input, be mindful that almost all studio microphones will require a 6 dB cut to tame the lower end, because we're not actually in broadcasting here. You know, with the equalizer you can take just about any microphone and make it sound good. If the microphone has too many highs, you can roll them off. Too few lows, you can increase it. Equalization applies to both receiving and transmitting. Now here you're looking at the 3-band equalizer. That's what I would start out with because it isn't too complicated this way. However, once you get familiar with it, guess what you have next? You have the 10-band equalizer, so you can really set up your rig exactly how you like it. You could basically take any kind of microphone and make it sound halfway decent. Although it's the best idea to start off with a decent microphone to begin with. The ALC is very unique, and it tends to be able to hold your gain pretty constant. Right now I have the mic gain set at 42, which looks like about 100% modulation. But I'm going to zoom the mic gain all the way up to 70, and really not a whole lot has changed. It holds the gain fairly constant. Now we've been looking at the scope. We're going to take another look at the leveler when we do the same thing. Now I have my level gain set for approximately 10 dB, and as long as I keep the modulation reasonable, I'm going to have a gain of 10 dB. But if I increase the modulation too much, you can see that the gain automatically goes down and goes down to about almost 0 dB. We're looking now at the ALC gain reduction, and what you see now is gain reduction. I set my mic gain all the way up and I'm reducing my gain by around 11 to 10 dB. But if I put my mic gain where it should be, as you can see, the gain reduction now gets down to about 0 dB, and so I'm pretty well set with no gain, no ALC gain. One thing I found out with the Flex 5000A is that there are so many things that you can adjust. It's like being able to crawl right into your rig and be able to go to the chip level and be able to adjust just about anything. Or you can leave it alone because they basically set it up for optimum use. But you have a choice in this case. You have a choice of changing some of these parameters. Here we are looking at the transmit panel where we can set up some transmit profile defaults. Now when you first start with the Flex 5000A, you should go to the default. Stop messing around with anything until you know how everything works. But if you look here, we have some presets that we can put in. So if you have a D104 microphone, you can go down here and set it up for a D104. You can set it up for AM. You can set it up for a contest, for those of you that like to do contests. And in my case, I have the microphone, the PR781, and I can set it up for that particular microphone, all preset. Or you can create your own. We are looking at the transmit filter selection, and note that the default low frequency setting is 200 Hz. This is in itself a form of equalization. For a more penetrating sound, raise the low frequency setting. For more fidelity, increase the high frequency response. Extended single sideband typically is 50 to 3650 Hz. Beyond this point, you get diminishing returns, and besides, most conventional radios can't hear beyond 3.6 kilohertz. For example, my ICOM 756 Pro 3 is deaf to that frequency range. We can see the transmitter filter on the display when I hit the button, and there it is. And this is a good way to ensure that we don't have a signal that's too wide, at least wider than the incoming signal. Nice to be courteous, isn't it? With the wave recorder, I can call CQ without getting my voice tired. Just simply add the CQ that I previously recorded and then hit play.
Call CQ, 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 CQ.
Now there I am calling CQ and talking to you at the same time. I guess you can only take so much of that. So you always wanted to use QRP. Well, guess what? We have the ability to change our drive down from as low as 1 watt up to as high as 100 watts. During contests and other crowded band conditions, one should use higher DSP buffer settings. Now in this case we see lower buffer settings and you see a relatively wide bandwidth. So I'm going to take the rig out of transmit and we're going to narrow the buffer settings. We're going to widen the buffer settings, and we're going to see that when we do that, the bandwidth is much more narrower than before. So now the bandwidth is more narrow than it was before, and this is something we should do during contests so we don't splatter over to someone else's frequency. We are now looking at the monitor tab. You can monitor your own signal. The monitor provides output of the signal up to the transmitter stages. If one has the optional second receiver, you can actually monitor the output of the transmitter as well as see the transmitted waveform. I would like to tell you that the performance of the monitor is directly related to the CPU speed, especially the DSP buffer settings. You can get some latency problems if you have too slow a computer. My computer isn't very good and it's just on the edge of what you can possibly use. Lower DSP settings will reduce latency, however the transmitter frequency response will change. Lower buffer settings create broader transmit signals. Audiophiles typically like the broader response because it provides warmth in the transmitter sound. But during contests and other crowded band conditions, one should use higher DSP buffer settings. Here I've changed my mode to AM and I'm looking at the scope mode so you can get a good sense of how your transmitted signal might look on AM. I love looking at this display. Well, it's time to take a look at one of the undocumented features of the Flex 5000A that not even they know about. I discovered it all by myself. And the way I discovered it was using this late model computer called the Timex Sinclair 1500. Maybe you're familiar with it. I used that, and I use my theory book, Machine Code and Better Basic. Using these two items, I was able to find the feature that I like to call the time machine on the Flex 5000. The reason you're looking at today's date on a newspaper is because I'm going to show you a special feature of the Flex 5000. You can actually go back in time and listen to Field Day back in June 28th. You can hear Field Day. You just set the time sequencer up to June 28th and you can listen to Field Day. And then you can see how active the band is on Field Day. I'll just scan down a little bit. And those of you that can copy Fast CW, you probably can pick up the Field Day calls. I can't believe it. You can go back in time. There's a station. Maybe I can work him. Yeah, got him. I got him. I worked the station from 8 months ago. I can't believe it.
That's all, folks.